We are just 23 days away from the day we have all been waiting for. Philadelphia Catholic League football kicks off on August 28th. All around the area, we've got games down the Jersey Shore where Pat will be. We've got games in the city of Philadelphia. We have games outside of the city of Philadelphia. It will be a great day for the Philadelphia Catholic League. But as we start the countdown to kickoff, which actually started on August 1st, Pat, we are here to do some podcasts to talk about what to expect. And you see it right above us. Episode 1 is about who's number 1, and we will be getting to that shortly. I am Anthony Sorgi alongside Pat Birkhead. Pat, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. It should be a good show. Just talk about, all the teams in the PCL, and I think it's going to be a really exciting year with a lot of really good teams.
Pat, by the way, the co-director of podcasting for PCLSN now. Very big, exciting role. But yeah, it is going to be a great year. I think that our freshman year, we're both class of 2028 for those who don't know. Our freshman year, it felt like, for the most part, there was kind of a thought of a two-horse race in the PCL, right? It's the Prep LaSalle and nobody else. But last year, Roman Catholic completely shifted that perception by putting themselves in the mix, beating LaSalle, losing to the Prep, but then going on to win a 5A state championship. Now they move up to 6A. Father Judge moves up to 6A, meaning that now both of our teams, Pat, instead of only having to worry about playing one team once, they have to worry about three teams once. On the 4A side, you still have Bonner Prendy and Cardinal O'Hara in the red division. But then on the blue side, you've got your Archbishop Ryans, your Conwell Eagans, your Lansdale Catholics, your West Catholics, your Archbishop Carrolls, Woods, Newmans, right? You've got these teams in the blue that are all really solid programs that are going to be interesting to think about and to talk about. Before we get into the nitty gritty of things, Pat, what's something that maybe you think is going to surprise people about PCL football this year?
I'll stay with my school. I know LaSalle lost a lot of talent. Other programs lost a lot of talent, but I think the level of play is not going to take a drop. Every year there's going to be seniors that graduate, and I don't even think this should be a surprise to anyone that the talent level and the level of play is going to stay the same.
Yeah, I mean, it goes for every sport, right? I know you talked to Terrence Smith recently, and he talked about how great the blue division is. I talked to Gavin Dorita, a Bonner baseball player, and he was talking to me about how the Catholic League is one of the best leagues in the country in every sport. Football is one of the perfect examples of that. We know the hotbed for football that Pennsylvania is. A lot of people talk about Western PA, but Eastern PA right now is where you can see these top national caliber teams competing, and all three of them on the Eastern side, or at least, I mean, debatable on whether you consider Malvern in that club, but for sure the top three teams in the Catholic League are there and are leading the front of Eastern Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania football as a whole heading into this year. Pat, I guess let's start with the blue here. You just did the preview article for the season, so you have a lot of knowledge, more than most do, about this division. A ton of high-end talent. When I was going through making the graphics for this, for our Countdown to Kickoff series, finding out about all these guys going through the recruiting websites who are rated players, who are ranked players, who are high Division I players coming out of this league that maybe a lot of people in the area don't know about. Can you talk about that high-end talent and how these blue schools are producing these top-level players?
Yeah, writing that blue division preview was cool for me because, I go to LaSalle. I know about the red division more so. I haven't been that involved with the blue division, but knowing a little bit more now is definitely really cool. You already mentioned him, but Terrence Smith is, ranked a top 100 player on some sites, and he's very close to it on others. He's going to LSU next year. Him along with Stanley Montgomery. I also talked to him. He's a big-time recruit, defensive line to Penn State. And then even at Wood, offensive tackle Ben Sakiyama, he's going to Syracuse. He's really massive. So Jack Drakely, he mentioned how lucky he is to have that guy protecting him. But on top of those three, there's a lot more D1 talent and definitely a lot of they pump out guys to Westchester, Kutztown, good D2 and D3 programs that will compete at those levels every year too.
I remember in the winter we had a conversation about the amount of basketball players that could play Division II and Division III from the Catholic League. On the football side, I think it's the same. I think of so many backups and like low level starters at St. Joe's Prep who were playing Division II, Division III, and maybe they decided to go to a Division I school and not play football, but very easily could have. I think it's the same at LaSalle. I think it's the same at pretty much every PCL school. I think that you're talking about dozens upon dozens, if not reaching that 100+ mark of players who could play at that level.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about like the Catholic League as a whole. I think in football people view it as the red and the blue, but in every other sport it's just the PCL. So I think if you're looking at PCL football, it's so impressive the amount of talent coming out of both divisions.
Archbishop Ryan is the story of the year. I feel like they've won back to back. They get their head coach back, which is big this season. Um, and I think the question that people are thinking about is, can Archbishop Ryan three-peat? Take us into what you're seeing at this Ryan program, what your expectations are for them, and what fans should anticipate from the Raiders this season.
Yeah, a little bit of a weird season last year with the whole head coach situation, but they still managed to win a hubcap. So they lost Dave Spinelli, who was the MVP of the league, and he did literally everything for them. He played defense, he ran the ball, he passed the ball, he was a receiver. So he was, a really big player for them. But BJ Scott, their quarterback, he was injured for some of last year, but he got a good amount of reps on varsity, and I think they're very confident in his ability to lead that program to a three-peat, along with Stanley Montgomery, who we mentioned earlier. Um, I know they have some receivers. Deshaun Williams is super, super fast. I think he said his 40 time on his X was like a 4.5, so he's he's definitely going to be a playmaker for them. And then basketball player Gavin Capan, he plays both like a edge type position and receiver. So I think Capan, we've seen how great of an athlete he is in basketball, and I think that could be a big impact off the edge for them.
I would agree there. I mean, Stanley Montgomery is for sure a guy that you have to look at nationally. We talked about him going to Penn State. He's going to be a guy with a bright future ahead of him. Um, and I guess to talk about Ryan, and I know that they have a few games against red division teams. We have a lot of red versus blue games though this season, a lot more than I think we had last season even. The likes of the reigning 6A state champs playing a blue division team, not something you hear about every day. Um, is there an upset that you like from this list? Is there something that you looking at these games when you have Ryan Judge, O'Hara Egan, LC Judge, Bonner Ryan, Judge Egan, Newman O'Hara, Wood LaSalle, and Egan Bonner that you like?
Yeah, I think we saw a few, maybe multiple Blue Division teams give Judge a hard time last year. We know Ryan versus Judge, like that's the rivalry in Northeast Philadelphia. So rivalry games, they can go any way. One that I'm interested in, I'm not sure, for Newman Goretti versus Cardinal O'Hara. Cardinal O'Hara lost a few big time players, and Newman Goretti has a 2029 quarterback that will, going into his second year on varsity, I think he could have a big year. So I think that also says a lot about the PCL that blue division teams and red division teams are playing in their non-conference schedules every year. And I don't know if you watched Bob Long interviewed LaSalle's coach Brett Gordon, and he said in the off season they had a good conversation with the Wood coach about two historic football programs that they think is important to have a game like that.
I think on the LaSalle and even like Bonner, right, and O'Hara, those are, Judge has struggled the last few years, but those other programs are pretty high quality programs. LaSalle obviously won the state championship last year. Bonner won the 4A title 2 years ago. O'Hara made a pretty far run. Very easily could have won that if it wasn't for a questionable call that got a lot of talking about in the state playoffs. Um, a lot of people see these games as cupcakes, as ones you can easily just walk through and win. How do you see them?
I think any PCL football team is a good team, so uh, I'm sure. I know the coaches don't view it that way, so I don't think any um, you know PCL matchup is a cupcake game, no matter if it's in the red or the blue.
I'm looking at that Ryan Judge matchup opening weekend, and both teams are going to be going down the shore the next week, right? Labor Day weekend on a Saturday there. And I think some teams might be looking ahead to that shore trip, but I know that these two are not. There's no game that they want to win more probably than this. I don't know how this compares for Ryan or Judge to what winning a hubcap would be like, but I think that the win would probably compare pretty closely to that in just the visceral rivalry, the visceral hatred between these two programs and schools. Do you have a pick? Do you have any thoughts on that game specifically?
Um, well, I think for technically being a non-league matchup, I think it's as close as you can get to a league matchup or playoff football, and it's that early. So I think that would be a really fun one for people to go watch because that's like you're going from, July workouts and then August training camp into maybe the biggest rivalry in the area. So I think it's gonna be close. I think those games are always gonna be close. They're both tough teams, tough programs. I don't know if I have a pick right now, but I think it could easily go either way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put in a pick because I'm gonna be at that game. I don't want to be. I don't want to have any bias. I'm gonna pull like a Kirk Herbstreit here on College Game Day. No pick because I'll be there. But I think it'll be a good game. I know that these two teams are always pretty competitive. So it'll be interesting. That's the blue, but I think we should take it to the red here because we have six solid programs, three that we'll get to later in the debate of who is the number one team. But looking at outside of the big three, Father Judge is a team that is very interesting to me. Their kicker, Jake Midget's the only one who has an offer on the team. He has an offer from D2, I think it's Angelo State, down there in San Angelo, Texas. So overall, like talent wise, they don't have a ton, but I know Ryan Nace won at Cheltenham and now he's in year two at Judge. And things can only go up from here, right, Pat? I think that you and I both know that. After the struggle of last season, what do you think is going to change there at Judge?
Yeah, I think obviously a tough year last year, but I think the program's just kind of getting their feet under them. They're playing one of the toughest schedules in the country. Being in the PCL Red Division means you're going to do that. So, compared to the average high school football team, I think they're totally fine. But when we're looking at them compared to LaSalle and the Prep and Roman, they're not quite there yet. Um, I don't really know what's going to change, but I'm sure, just trying to be. I know this was big for a few programs last year, just being not even on the field, being stronger in the weight room, being better conditioned. So just little things like that, I think could help propel them a little bit, higher in the red division.
Cardinal O'Hara is a program. that, as I mentioned, had a nice run going there in states before they lost in heartbreaking fashion. And you said they lose guys, right? They lose their quarterback, John Welly, to Villanova.
Yeah.
One of many that they lose.
And
Amaj Gallons, I remember as well,
yeah, I
running
think
back. He had
most
a really great
importantly,
year.
Amaj Gallons.
Yeah,
He
he was
had over
spectacular.
2,000 yards. I remember when LaSalle played O'Hara, he kept them in the game. Like he was a big time game changer. And then they also lost their top receiver, Fode Wilkes. So I think it's
Yes.
going to be interesting to see how that offense is going to do without them. I know we just had a Cardinal O'Hara player on our countdown to kickoff.
Yeah, Sammy Dantonka is a really good player heading to Wake Forest, and I think that he's going to be a key for this team because, I mean, O'Hara, you need that type of game changing player when you're going up against a Prep, a LaSalle, or a Roman. You need that guy who can make a big play early that can shift the momentum, right? I think about um, when the last time the Prep played at O'Hara, it was a it was a pretty rough game. I think about last year we played them on Senior Day at Egan. Again, just rough blowout game. Kind of same thing. I would, from what I'm remembering from LaSalle too, when they've played them. So I think that overall, O'Hara is. I mean, you got your work cut out for you when you're in this division, as you talked about with Judge. But I think O'Hara has the potential. Again, you talked about it: weight room, conditioning, the little things, the fundamentals matter. And I think on any given night, right? You said anyone in the PCL can beat anyone. I'm not going to argue with that, right? On any given night, an upset can happen. Something can go your way that sends shockwaves around the area. Kind of like how that Roman win over LaSalle did. Look at what Roman Catholic went on to do.
Yeah, no, that Roman game was obviously really big for them. They go on to win the 5A state championship, and now they're up to 6A. So we'll definitely touch on them more later because they have a very interesting season coming up. But a signature win like that for a program like Bonner or O'Hara could really, I think, do a lot for them.
The 6A jump for Roman, I mentioned at the top of the show, Judge also moving up to 6A. What do you think about that? Just to go back to Judge for a little bit, because it was sort of a puzzling move for me, like in my head. I guess, I mean, attendance is up at Judge, which is obviously great for the school, and that's why they're moving up. But Imhotep moves down, Judge moves up alongside Roman. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Judge, you mentioned, they have a lot of kids going there right now, so maybe that's going to help them field a better team. But I think it's an interesting move going up to 6A. It makes the PCL really interesting towards the end of the season, just with that almost like little mini playoff to get into the 6A state bracket. Um, but yeah, I think moving up to 6A, the expectations are higher, so they're going to have to work harder than ever. And at the end of the day, it could be a good thing for the program. Like, we're going to have to come together as we move up. All those guys will be probably pretty close. So, yeah.
Yeah. Taking a look at Bonner Prendy. Um, I mean, the story I feel like from Bonner recently has been Tyree Davis Wynn. His recruitment. I mean, the schools are rolling in here to Lansdowne Avenue to take a look at this kid. He is absolutely spectacular on the line. I saw today he posted a postcard he got from Tennessee. And I mean, that just says, right, when you got the Big Orange calling there from Knoxville, says a lot about a Bonner Prendy guy. You don't see that every day. Guys from Bonner, O'Hara, they're getting very highly recruited this year, right? They've got a lot going for them. What are your thoughts on Davis Wynn? What are your thoughts on his recruitment?
Yeah, he's clearly a tremendous athlete. He's on their basketball team who, has big expectations this year. So I think that shows how, flexible as of an athlete he is. he's able to play two sports while being that heavily recruited in football. But having a guy like him at tackle, super athletic, super strong, he works hard. It's just, I'm sure Noel Campbell there is happy to have him on the line, but it's just, I think it's big for an offensive line to have a guy like that to, be able to anchor them and have like one of those five guys like no one's getting by him.
Yeah, and you mentioned Noel Campbell. He is the only returning starting quarterback in the Philadelphia Catholic League Red Division. I don't think that's something that we thought we'd be saying a few months ago. But it's true, right? St. Joe's Prep loses Charlie Folk to transfer. Gavin Sidwart goes to Missouri. Samaj Beals goes to Akron. And then we mentioned John Welby to Villanova. And then John Fogarino graduates from Judge. Jackson Zedek transfers out. Campbell is the only returning starter. How much do you think that's going to help Bonner this season?
I think it's really going to help. He won a state championship 2 years ago, and he's a good quarterback. He can lead that offense. He's done it before, so he knows how to win. Having a guy like that in a close game that's been there in the Catholic League Red Division will be really big. I'm interested to see how the other quarterbacks kind of warm up to starting high school football at the varsity level throughout the non-conference. Like, are they going to be able to catch up? Obviously, they can't catch up to his experience, but, gain enough experience to kind of match Campbell's at Bonner.
And let's take a look at the comments here because we have some great comments, starting with Ryan Sullivan, coming to us from the great city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin today. Shout out to Ryan. Saying he thinks Pat's on ESPN, or Pat, you think you're on ESPN with your spectacular background. And then Sam saying Noel Campbell fan club. What are your thoughts on a Noel Campbell fan club?
I like Noel Campbell. He's a good quarterback. I know Sam is a big fan of Seth Gay, who he mentioned in that comment. But I guess my message to Sam is start whatever fan club you want.
To each their own. I think that we have a lot to talk about on the big three teams, but before we get to that, which of the smaller three programs with less expectations on them do you think is most likely to pull off an upset this year over one of those big three?
I would say Bonner. I like that Noel Campbell's coming back. I like Tyree Davis win. Some of these guys, I guess the seniors now, one is sophomores. So, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But if I had to pick one, I would say Bonner.
Yeah, I think that Bonner is. It's an. Have you been to Bonner before for football?
No.
Okay, very odd place to play. Very odd place to play. There are no real bleachers. The field is nestled between it's like under the school, like it's a level below. And then it's right next to like the trolley tracks. It's just a very odd place to play a game. It makes for a great setting. It's a great spot. But it's just different. So I think that Bonner has a nice home field advantage there. O'Hara does something, or at least did it my freshman year, very interesting. I don't know if it was to try to create a home field advantage or what, but Pat, they were playing Beethoven pregame.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very different thing, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it could get into the head of someone who's not a big classical music fan on the sidelines. I'd love to hear the psychology. Maybe there's some science behind Beethoven pregame. But yeah, I'd agree overall. Bonner, I think, is that fourth team right now, and we'll see what the rest of our staff says, whether they agree with us or not in the first preseason poll, which will be coming out a couple days before the season begins. But we've got about 35 minutes left, and I think we have a lot more than 35 minutes to talk about of big three teams in the Red Division football, Pat. Um, let's um, let's start with the losses, right? Um, LaSalle, 6A state champs, but they lose a lot. What's going to be different this year for the Explorers than last, just because of the guys that they lost?
Yeah, Gavin Sidwar was a 4-year starter, so LaSalle, hasn't. I think he was a starter his freshman year because of an injury, maybe. I'm not completely sure on that. But LaSalle hasn't had a different starting quarterback in 4 years, and this year it's going to be Luke Gordon. From the people I've talked to on the team, people that watch LaSalle football, everyone seems confident in Luke. I'm confident in Luke. I think he's going to have a good year. Um, I know he's been working really hard on the freshman team his senior year, on the JV team last year. He was able to get some varsity experience last year. So I think he'll be able to hold it down pretty well for LaSalle. And then the offensive line, there's going to be some change too. You lose Grayson McHugh at left tackle, which obviously is a big loss. I think there are guys that are going to step up. I know there's a 2029 um, tackle, Gabe Dean. He's really big. I think he's might be ready to play varsity. So those guys. I think one thing we could see. I'm confident in Luke, but Azir Nelson, I think he's going to have a really big
Yes.
year at running back. It's not often that you have, Joey, who is being recruited to play high major football as a receiver too. So you had him, you had Owen Johnson, you had JP Oates at tight end, who was a D1 tight end before converting to edge for college, and Jimmy Mahoney, who's running track at Penn State. So they could go five wide with an SEC quarterback, and that's going to be different this year. That I wouldn't be surprised if they still throw the ball a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lean on Nelson a little more. And we saw it at the end of last year. They handed him the ball a lot in that state championship game, and it paid off. So I think expect big things from him.
When the weather gets cold, you got to hand the ball off. That's something I remember from um, the state championship my freshman year when Kai Billups ran for over 200 yards in that game. And Will Vokalos, the backup running back, out in the end zone as well. I think that against the Prep at least, that O'Brien Johnson tandem was unstoppable. The Prep didn't have the DBs to stop it, right, because they lost Amashil early. So Messiah Akery could only do so much last season, and it caused that success, especially in that second game where we just saw Owen have a breakout, crazy great performance. I think that all three of these teams lose a lot. I'll go through the list at St. Joe's Prep, right? I mentioned Charlie Folk, he's gone. Kai Billups is gone. You're going to lose some guys on that line. Jake Namdam, one of them, he's headed to Dartmouth. So those are just a couple. Good news for the Prep. For the most part, your receiving core returns, which is great news. You lose Rob Novotny, so Fordham. And then defensively, you lose Alex Haskell. You lose Samaj Hill, just to name a couple of guys. But overall, I don't think the Prep's in a horrible place heading into this year. I feel like they probably bring back the most of the three teams. We'd have to do the math on like most Division One players returning. I know Roman does have a lot, and Roman also has the advantage of the transfers. But if you just include returners from last year, the Prep's in a decent spot. Roman, though, they lose Samaj Beals. They're going to have a first year starter, or at least at Roman, at quarterback. Can you talk about the other guys Roman lost, big names that they're going to miss?
Yeah, I think a really big one is Ashton Roberts.
Yes.
Ashton Roberts was one of the main reasons that Roman beat LaSalle last year. He was really fast. His run after catch ability is something that's really special. So I think he went to Temple, so he'll still be in the area.
Yeah.
But a really exciting player there, and losing that quarterback receiver connection. That's Not the best thing for Roman, but they have really good skill positions coming back. Um, but he was also their returner, I think. So he made some impact plays as a kick returner as well. But I honestly, Roman returned a lot as well.
Yeah, they
Um,
do. I think that is it fair to say LaSalle loses the most of key.
yeah, I would.
So,
I
but
think
they
that's
bring
fair.
back so much, right? They bring back Azir, like on the offensive side.
They lose a lot,
Um,
but yeah, they brought back a very good amount of talent. So
Zyke's
it's
back.
yeah. So they on offense they return Azir Nelson, who was a great running back. Drew Sorge, who is Brett Gordon also mentioned this in his interview with Bob. He was named the captain like way back. He's the leader of this team.
Wow.
So he's a offensive guard committed to Lafayette. And then obviously Owen Johnson on offense. And for the secondary, I think some people question it because, Joey O'Brien's leaving. But they bring back Chima Auguste, who has, a bunch of offers. He can commit to any one of those schools. They bring back Trey Hopkins at defensive back, who's committed to UCLA. He had a bunch of schools after him, and he was, with Joey playing safety, he was pretty much tasked with the opposing team's number one receiver every week last year. So he has a good taste of what it's going to be like this year. And then the class of 28 has a bunch of good defensive backs that just have, been behind some of the seniors, Aiden Christie, Lucas Johnson, Joey. But I think you can expect some production from Brandon Murray, Santana Swittenberg, and Justice Morrison. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if any of those guys earned a starting job in the secondary.
Yeah, I think about last year Ryan, who I'm guessing is still watching. His like breakout player he told me before the season was Owen Johnson. This year it's Chase Winterborn for St. Joe's Prep. I think that's the guy on the prep side that you really have to look at because Winterborn is just a really, really good player. Going to have a good season. He showed some bright spots last year, but I think this is going to be his breakout junior year. Going to get himself a lot of Division One offers. Trey Roberts got a few low Division One. I think he might have gotten Delaware. So he's a guy to watch for defensively as well. Messiah Acree returning. He's headed to Syracuse. Brandon Lockley, Oregon. The prep returns a good amount on defense. But yeah, and then Roman, a lot of transfers, Pat. A lot of transfers. Victor Izuku, Noah Alston, both coming from St. Joe's Prep. Those two are going to be interesting to watch. But then returning, Corin Russell, Eason Neely returns, Walter Hudson, just to name a couple. AJ Wright as well. On the offensive line, Roman seems to be pretty strong.
Yeah, no, I think Roman is certainly going to be as involved as they were last year with St. Joe's Prep and LaSalle, if not more. Um, but I don't know. I think Isanili is really good. I forget the name of the transfer from Imhotep, but he'll definitely make a big
Kareem
difference.
Hawk.
Kareem Hawk, yeah. So
Yeah.
he'll be really good. And we know what Coach Preet can do. He's done a fantastic job with that program. I remember Bob mentioning on our broadcast last year, like they were really struggling at one point to even get kids on the team, and now they're a powerhouse. And I think maybe we can touch on this. They're playing like a national schedule. They're going out to California. They're playing a bunch of good teams. So
Yeah, and it's a good time to mention, by the way, that Andy Villamarzo from Rivals is going to be joining us this time next week to talk about just that because Roman playing a gauntlet of a schedule. Number one ranked St. John Bosco, then Don Bosco Prep, then DeMatha, three huge programs nationally. St. Joe's Prep did this last year. They played three top 15 teams. And we saw what happened. They went 0-3. Without giving away like game picks or anything, because we can wait for that until we get we get closer to the game. What are your thoughts on this Roman out of league schedule?
I think it's a good challenge for them. You mentioned we've seen the Prep do it pretty much year in and year out. Um, you know, I don't know what games they're going to win. I don't know what games they're going to lose, but I do know that it's going to be really good for them to get up to speed before the PCL season. Like, you don't want to go out there and play some bad football teams, and then you play St. Joe's Prep week 1 of your PCL season and you get blown out because you're not ready. So I think it's good for them to play these good teams and, warm up to football.
Yeah, and you mentioned them playing the Prep, and it's a perfect segue into us talking about the 6A mini playoff. Because there is a scenario here where if LaSalle beats Roman and LaSalle beats the Prep, and all three teams beat Father Judge, the Prep and Roman will be playing back-to-back weeks. Halloween afternoon and then the week after. If they're set up into that scenario, it creates a completely different meaning for the game because they know if they both lose to LaSalle, they're pretty much guaranteed to play that next game the next week, no matter who wins. What are your thoughts on this 4-team playoff? How do you think this is all going to play out?
I think it's really fun. It might be an extra game. I don't know if it narrows a PCL team's chances of winning the 6A state championship, but I don't really care if it does. I think it's going to be really cool to watch. Now you have to win 2 games. It's not that guaranteed. Prep versus LaSalle, which it was fun, but I think having to prove yourself, obviously Father Judge is going to be weaker than the 3, so you want to be that 1 seed probably. How important is that you play Father Judge and not, one of the other 2 big 3 teams out there? I think it depends for a coach, but I know they'll all be really trying hard for that 1 seed, and that whoever is in the 2 versus 3 matchup, I think that is going to be a game to watch and probably one of the most exciting ones of the season.
Now, I'll ask whoever is in charge of scheduling those games, please don't schedule them at the same time. That's my ask. Please schedule them on different days because I know that I think just about everyone is going to want to watch. If it's Prep versus Roman, you're going to want to watch it. If it's Roman versus LaSalle, I'm going to want to watch it. And if it's the Prep versus LaSalle, which obviously I think both of us would prefer that be the next week. Everyone's going to be watching just because of how big of a rivalry that is. Historically, I don't know how big LaSalle Roman is, but I mean, Prep Roman is just ingrained in the city, right? Like every day coming home from school, you pass by Broad and Vine if you go to the Prep. At least for me, going back to Delco, right? If you take the subway to Suburban Station on the Broad Street line to grab your train, you go right by that Roman stop, and you've got kids wearing purple and gold right next to you in your subway car. It is a rivalry that is so deeply ingrained into the city in a way that Prep LaSalle isn't, that Roman LaSalle isn't, that really no rivalry other than Ryan Judge is, and that's just a neighborhood clash. But it creates a really interesting dynamic where no matter who's going to be playing in that 6A playoff, it creates something interesting. I don't have inside information here. It's just kind of a guess, but I wouldn't be shocked if St. Joe's Prep is only playing 3 non-conference games because of that, right? Because of that no bye during the playoffs. If LaSalle goes all the way to the state championship, they will be playing every single week from August 28th to December 12th. No buys. That is a gauntlet. And I respect Brett Gordon and his coaching staff for believing in their team to be up to it. But that's a gauntlet of a schedule that's going to be really interesting to see which strategy will play out better between the 2. Roman Catholic, I know they do have a bye week in their schedule, but they have a game against Springside Chestnut Hill after their 3 big national games. I think it's worth saying, though, Pat, that if you remember from last year, this is a playoff that we already have on the 4A side of things. We have that 4-team setup where last year we saw, I'm forgetting which 4 teams it was, but I know that it was Ryan, O'Hara, Bonner, and it would have been, who would that 4th team be? Would it be Wood? I think it'd be Wood as that 4th team there at 4A. So, like, we've seen this before at the 4A level, but now we're getting the 3 big teams in the league to face off. At the end, we'll at the end of the segment, we'll get to our rankings of those big 3. But let's start with. I mean, we've pretty much talked a lot about Roman moving up to 6A. Let's go to the prep. Coming off a down year. It happened a decade ago, Pat, right? St. Joe's Prep lost to LaSalle in a playoff game, bounced back the next year. I'll get as a prep guy into my expectations in a moment, but go ahead. What are yours?
Yeah, look, if I was at the prep on the prep football team, I would be, not happy with the past 2 years. You lose to LaSalle 3 times, only beating them once. That's your biggest rival. That's not what the prep wants to see as a program. So I think they'll have, a lot of motivation to win that matchup this year. But I'm excited to see how Maxwell Rogers can do. I know you're pretty confident in him. So you have Jet Harrison, who it's hard to believe he was just a sophomore last year. He has 2 more years. But yeah, I think the prep can be really good. I think they'll compete for a Catholic League title. I don't know if they'll get it or not, but they'll definitely be looking for a bounce back year after the past year.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Folk got that starting job as a sophomore for the prep. Had his 2 years, decided to transfer out. Kobe Towns transferred out, which leaves Max. And he does not have that much varsity experience. He's never started a varsity game. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does. We know he has a good arm. That is something we for sure do know. And I think that everyone around the program talking to players, they have nothing but confidence in him, which is really exciting and really good to see if you're a prep fan. I think a big key to this season is going to be a 2-back system. It looks like you're going to have Amin Williams and Logan Darrisaw both there. And Amin's a smaller, more elusive, shiftier back. Logan Darrisaw is a big kid. He's jacked, and he's just going to, get you across that first down line when you absolutely need it. I think that's going to be big. Also, Jet and Olsen Frisbee both come back, right? Jet Harrison's the number 1 player in the 2028 class, not in Pennsylvania, in the country. He's already committed to Ohio State, right? Like, the legacy is there. He's on his way to breaking his older brother's prep receiving yards record, and he's just a special talent, right? We saw against LaSalle in that first game. Did the prep win? No. Did Jet Harrison have a day? Yes. And he, whether you want to say really kept them in it, but kept them in the game throughout, and gave the prep a little bit of hope there at points. Bringing back Brandon Lockley and Messiah Akery is going to be big. Those are 2 Division I guys who are going to be leaders this season. Having a guy like Chase Winterborn, having a guy like I mentioned, Trey Roberts. Those are just 2 guys in my class who I know and have confidence in. A guy to watch as a transfer is Cabri Johnson, coming in from West Catholic as a Penn State offer 2029. Going to be interesting to see how he performs with the team. Not sure if he's going to start. Because you also have Johnny Boggs, right, defensively. He's a FCS Ivy League player heading to Princeton. On the offensive side, going back there, Jake Wilson at tight end is headed to Army. So a lot of Division I talents on this prep team. I have nothing but confidence for them, though. Heading into this season, tough national schedule: Brentwood, Bergen, to open up things before they play Malvern, both on the road, those first two. It's going to be interesting how they fare there to see how they can play. I think Bergen's a very winnable game. Brentwood has a lot of talent, but we've seen the Prep compete and win games on the road before. So, it's for sure in the realm of possibility. It wouldn't shock me if they won that game. I think it's going to be closer than some people think it will be. But yeah, let's go to LaSalle now. You mentioned him earlier, Luke Gordon. The reins are his, Pat. What are your thoughts on Luke?
Yeah, Luke, he's a third generation guy. His grandfather didn't play at LaSalle, but he was the head coach at LaSalle. So he was the head coach at LaSalle. His dad, Brett, is now the head coach at LaSalle and was the quarterback at LaSalle. Both had tremendous success at the school, and Brett, was part of that run last year as the head coach. Luke was too as the backup quarterback. That's an important position. But again, nothing but confidence in Luke from everyone around the team. He's accurate. He's played well on freshman and JV, and I know you mentioned like Maxwell Rogers has never started a varsity game. Luke hasn't either. So, both these programs though have good JV teams, like with all the top end, upperclassmen talent. JV teams around the area are good teams. So, getting experience there, he's thrown to Owen Johnson a lot, and I think most importantly, he's learned under Gavin Sidwar. He's had 2 years to, see Gavin playing and, process all that he does in his head. And, he's a coach's son. He's going to be a smart player, and I think he will get the job done for LaSalle.
I think that, as a prep guy, it's going to be interesting to watch you guys up against Paramus to see how you're doing. But also, you play Malvern an hour before we kick off our opening game in Brentwood. And I can imagine that after you're done, you're going to be tuning into our game. Before we go on the air, we're going to be tuning into your game because both of these teams are playing big national games. If there's a broadcast of Romans games, I know we'll both have those up as well. But I think that it's going to be interesting to see how LaSalle does. How much do you think that sitting behind Gavin is going to help Luke, right? Having that experience, having someone who even now he can shoot a text or a call to and get advice from someone who was in his shoes and brought this team to a state championship.
Yeah, I know they were pretty good friends. They were close. Luke has learned a lot from Gavin, so I think it's really important. If there wasn't a quarterback to the level of Gavin that was there as an upperclassman when Luke was coming in, he might have started as a freshman, started as a sophomore. So, but Gavin was there, and I think that might be even better for Luke to see success and know what to do with it. So I think he'll have a big year. I think Owen Johnson is, arguably the best receiver in the Catholic League, in my opinion. I think Owen's a great receiver. Those two have a 2028 connection. And then another receiver I expect to step up for LaSalle is Jordan Reed. He's a 2029 guy. He had a great flash against Judge, an unbelievable touchdown catch there. So he'll have a big year at receiver. Trey Hopkins and Chima Geese can both play receiver as well. And then obviously in the running back room, Azir Nelson. Jeray Dial is a 2029 who was getting some experience last year, and I know he'll probably be big on both sides of the ball. But what I'm most excited for LaSalle is the defensive tackles. You have Caleb Davidson, who was recently ranked by 247 Sports, and Kyrie Mitchell. Those two were rotating with Jamel Williams last year, who's now at Albany, but they're going to be dominant this year. I think they're probably the best defensive tackle duo in the PCL and maybe even the state. I would think the state. So those guys are going to, blow up some runs, put pressure on the quarterback. And, with Roman and the prep having new quarterbacks and those games being so important, I think putting pressure on those guys to make them, make quick decisions is going to be really important for all three of those teams.
let's get into our rankings. But before we do, are these the top 3 teams in Pennsylvania?
I think I'm not entirely sure. I know Pittsburgh Central
Okay.
Catholic. Pittsburgh Central Catholic, they were with LaSalle until
They
the
were.
interceptions
They
in the
gave you
fourth
guys a run
quarter.
for your money.
So, and they did it twice. So
Yeah,
they did it in week 1 last year. Um, I think they're definitely in that conversation. You know, they bring back their quarterback Owen Herrick. They bring back their running back Chris Black Jr. I know they bring back more, so they'll have something to say about that. I'm sure there's a few more teams in Western Pennsylvania who are very prideful. You know, Western PA loves their football, but I think PCC has the strongest case out there.
I
Um,
agree.
I'm pretty sure Coatesville is supposed to be really good this year.
Coatesville is supposed to be good. Yeah,
I don't know
we
how
know
good
we know
they'll be.
about Max Hiller.
Uh-huh. So they have those guys. You have Malvern Prep. I don't know if that are we doing PIAA or
No, that Malvern's the team in the state. They count.
Malvern's always I've seen them the past 2 years play LaSalle, and both of the games have been really competitive, really close. So I don't think you can I don't think you can say they're the top 3, but I couldn't right now I personally wouldn't say anyone's the top 3. No one's played a snap of football this year yet. So I think we have to wait a little bit before we do that. Do
I
I
think we
think
can
by
say
the
they're
end?
3 of the top 5.
I would say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would probably say that. Could they be the top 3 by the end of the year? Certainly.
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we all want to say they're the top 3 teams because we love our league, right? Just like I mean, in every sport, right? We love when we see the whole league loves seeing our teams compete nationally in basketball and win tournaments. We love seeing LaSalle go and bring home big national wins in lacrosse, right? It's just when the PCL wins, everybody wins, everyone's happy, and I think that we all want to see all 3 of these teams should succeed in their out of league schedules, right? When they go out of state. LaSalle's got a trip to Calvert Hall. The Preps got their trip to Tennessee and a trip to North Jersey. Roman's got a trip down to Maryland as well as a trip to California. But let's get into it, Pat. Let's start with number 3. Who is your number 3 out of the top 3?
Right now, I'm gonna say Roman, just because that's my opinion. I think we saw they got a transfer at quarterback, Cannon Benzio. I just looked at that, and now on X it says that he is at Council Rock.
Yeah,
So
Ryan just texted me about that.
yeah, I texted him. So I'm not sure what their quarterback situation's looking at now. That's a little bit of
They got a
you
transfer
know,
from Jersey, I remember.
I think that was him.
Oh, it was? Okay, well, then he's transferring again. Wow. It's a lot of transferring in high
So
school football these days.
yeah, so I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to look like. Once again, they could just as easily be number 1 as number 3. So this is not set in stone. But yeah, I would go Roman 3.
I'm gonna agree. I think that they still have the most to prove. I think that's a fair thing to say as a program, right? We know the team's good, but as a program, they have the most to prove because they don't have the recent history of the prep, obviously, and they haven't competed on the 6A level, and 6A is a bit of a jump from 5A in ways. So I would agree there. Now, number 2 and number 1, I think is where we're going to differ because I wear crimson and gray. You wear blue and gold. If you cut us open, that's what we're going to bleed. But I will say that my number 2 is LaSalle College High School. My number 1 is St. Joe's Prep. I'm guessing you disagree.
Yeah, I disagree. I think LaSalle is the best team in the PCL. They're the reigning 6A state champions. They beat the Prep twice last year. So I think they have the best case. And nothing's really gonna, change my mind until the 2 teams play head to head. But I'm pretty confident in LaSalle in that matchup.
So you say nothing. So if LaSalle and I'm like if LaSalle has a bad non-conference, nothing changes.
It would have to be really bad. It would have to
Okay.
be. It would have to. Yeah, it would have to be pretty bad for me to change my opinion.
I'd agree with that the opposite way. I think that when you look at the prep, um, I'm not like super worried about those first two. Just because like you're just challenging yourself with high national competition. If you lose, then so be it. Those are really good teams. I think you're going in there expecting at least one win in those first two games. But if you come out with zero, you're not stressing over anything. Then if you go to the next one, Malvern is where you're thinking, okay, this is for sure a winnable game. And we will have already seen Malvern play you guys. So we'll have a common opponent. But October 10th at Central Buck South is like the day, right? That is the moment where was it a fluke last year or have the tides turned, right? That's the question that everyone wants to know. From the hills of Western Pennsylvania, outside of the state, down to the Jersey Shore and to the Delaware beaches, right? Everyone's asking that question. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And you said Ryan Judge might be the best rivalry in the PCL. I'm going to make a statement. Prep LaSalle is not only the best rivalry in the PCL, not only is it the best rivalry in the state of Pennsylvania, it is the best rivalry on the northern eastern seaboard. From the Northeast through all of New England, down through Maryland and Virginia, this is the best rivalry because no rivalry matches the pedigree of these two programs. No rivalry matches the talent of these two programs, while also matching the hatred between these two schools, the visceral, never-ending hatred, how much these two schools despise each other on the football field. Nothing matches it.
Yeah, no, I think you have to pay respect to Ryan and Judge, but I completely agree with you. I think maybe not even the East Coast, maybe the entire country, you know?
I think
It's
that
really,
Mater Dei St. John Bosco has something to say about that.
yeah, but I don't know.
There are a lot of little storylines that go into the Prep LaSalle rivalry. It's so historic. It goes back so far. The stories that alums tell us about old games. These two teams used to play on Thanksgiving at times, right? There's a lot of history there. And October 10th is going to be an awesome, awesome show. Before we get out of here, players that are going to make a name for themselves this year. I want one Roman player, one Prep player, one LaSalle player.
For the prep, I'll do the prep first. I trust Ryan Sullivan. So what's his name? Chase
Winterborn? Yeah.
I'll pick him because I trust Ryan Sullivan. For Roman, I think Ison Neely, he had a great year last year, but with Ashton Roberts leaving, I think he's the guy in that receiving room. He's also going to play DB. So I think, he could have a really big year. And for LaSalle, I mentioned Jordan Reed earlier. He is going to, I think, come onto the varsity scene at a very high level. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, this is a really high expectation if he makes a similar impact to what Owen Johnson made last year. Jeray Dial could also do the same thing. And then those two defensive tackles, Caleb Davidson and Kyrie Mitchell, both have a really bright season in front of them as that defensive tackle duo.
Yeah, I'm going to go, and again, some of these aren't really breakouts, but guys that are going to take a step up. LaSalle, I'm going to go Azir Nelson because I think that LaSalle's going to have to rely more on him than they did last year. Last year, it was Gavin and Joey, Gavin and Joey, Gavin and Joey. That's all you heard about. I think Azir is going to really shine bright. And I think Owen Johnson's going to get more attention just because of the fact that Joey's not there. He's not in anyone's shadow now. He's going to be that number one option. for Roman, again, not a breakout, but I remember how Jet, Jet freshman year sensation, and then last year another spectacular season. I expect the same thing on the other side of the ball from Ron Russell at Roman. I mean, look at the offers, right? That's all that you need to know.
Yeah.
Ohio State as a freshman is bizarre. A nationally acclaimed player. Can't wait to see once those 2029 national rankings come out where he's going to be sitting. But I really like him. And then for the prep, Chase Winterborn, I think, is a name to talk about. But I like Amin Williams on the offensive side. I think at running back, he's small, he's elusive, and he's going to make an impact this year for the prep. Also, I mean, I think we'd say this for both Max and Luke, right? They're going to have seasons I think we both expect to be really good. Before we get out of here, Pat, final thoughts.
I thought it was a good show. I hope we can, to all the people in the PCLSN podcast department, let's start to, get this going weekly. But it's always fun to come on here, and I'm still confident in LaSalle to be that #1 team in the state.
We will see how things shake out. But yes, great podcast again next week. This time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Andy Villamarzo from Rivals will join. Excited to get his thoughts on the national schedule. How will the PCL shape up against these top national programs this year? It's the question everyone wants the answer to. It's the question that hopefully we will get some answers to from a guy who covers the entire country and sees what these schools are going up against. Rivals ranked LaSalle #1, so we'll ask him about that as well. Max Prep's ranking St. Joe's Prep #1. So the, little bit of a flip back and forth there between the two rival outlets. But yeah, again, great show, Pat. Great as always. Great to have the Prep LaSalle debate in front of everyone that we have regularly texting and talking on the phone. So it's always a joy. And yeah, expect more from the pods. Otherwise, stay tuned on Friday to our social media. Some big stuff coming there. Stay tuned to our X and our Instagram for a very exciting announcement about some stuff that's going to be coming on our YouTube channel this year. And then stay tuned for coverage from the Rumpf Classic on the basketball side. Pat and I will be at opening night tomorrow night. Couldn't be more excited to be there at the DAC, getting to cover a game at a Big 5 arena. We've been to the Palestra before to cover games. Now we get to head just a couple blocks north to the DAC for the 21st annual Danny Rumpf Classic. Stay tuned on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Follow us on TikTok if you haven't yet at PCL Sports Network.
And Substack as well. We're trying to grow Substack. So
we will have great stories on there. Make sure to subscribe to the Substack. If you subscribe, you get it before anyone else does, right? You're getting those exclusive stories. You're getting those things that no one else is covering, and that we are the first to cover a lot of the time. So stay tuned for all that. But we will see you all next week. Thank you for watching. And as always, go Prep.